Hello and welcome to Episode 5, Season 7 of A Brief History of Nothing. And on this day, the 1st of the 4th, 2018, Happy April Fool's Day.
/ Easter.
Yeah. Oh, and
Ow!
for the first day of the month.
A hit and a kick for being so quick. There we go. Okay. What in fact happened on this day?
Well, on this day, in 1700, you'll never guess what a prankster did.
What?
He introduced April Fool's Day.
He made
As a prank.
April Fool's Day as a thing?
As a thing.
Oh,
It was
okay.
meant to be a prank.
But he it turned into a bit more than a prank.
Yes.
we figured out.
Mm.
Yes, in 1778, a little known thing called the dollar sign becomes a thing by a guy called Oliver Pollock. Also, dollar sign is also used in programming if they want a variable of something, depending on what language you're using. In Python, if you're using Java, or if you're using C++.
All right.
Depending on what you're using, it's actually used in programming quite extensively as well.
Okay, in 1905 on this day, Berlin and Paris are linked by phone lines. So if you're in Berlin, by the magical electrical telegraph, you could talk to someone in Paris.
Yeah, I want to know, what was the first one someone bringing up from Germany?
I want to know who the first wrong number was.
It's probably on the internet somewhere. I need to look that up. No, I wonder if the first telephone call was someone in Germany going, April Fool, and then, mad! Anyway, in
1918, the Royal Air Force came into being. It was originally the Royal Flying Corps and the Royal Naval Air Service. English is hard.
Yes.
They were merged to form the Royal Air Force.
Yes, because they had just had World War I, and they thought, what if this happens again?
Yeah.
And they were right, it did happen again.
Yes, World War I Mark II.
Yes.
More commonly known as World War II.
World War II, yes. And in 1948, the Berlin airlift begins to get supplies into West Berlin, because, remember, Berlin was separate from West Germany.
Yes.
So they had to actually, after Russia decided to block all the infrastructure in and out of West Berlin, England and the US went, okay, then we'll just use like aeroplanes. The Russians didn't think of aeroplanes. No.
Okay, now, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about products. We've talked about tech flops before, like technology that didn't work, and a couple of these are ones we've mentioned before. But yes, with products that didn't go so well.
Okay, so the Apple Newton. What was wonderful about the Apple Newton in a bad way?
Well, Steve Jobs, in his ultimate wisdom, decided, I know, I can't invent the iPad yet, because that's going to be another 20 years away. But what I'm going to do is get a pocket computer with a stylus, and you write, instead of using a keyboard, you actually write on it. The only problem was that the recognition software wasn't real great. So you had to write basically perfectly, for it to actually recognize what you were trying to type.
Oh, well, then.
Yeah, both of us are. And also it was $1,300 in 1993.
Oh, so the price of a micro hatch in 1993 almost.
Almost. Today's money, that's about a little over $2,000 US.
Probably more than that.
It's just less than double if you go 30 years ago.
Oh, okay.
It's just less than that, so it's about.
So I could have bought a second-hand Honda Zot, or no, later than that, say a second-hand Honda Civic, or a tiny Nissan or something like that, for what that pocket computer cost me.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I know which one I would have rather had.
And you could have got a budget 286 for the same money.
$1,300. Well, yes, yeah.
286, yeah.
Oh,
Because
you would have
those
been
were
386 because I bought the 386 around 1990, and that cost me $1,100.
Yeah, or you could get a 486 if you wanted to sell your kidneys on what passed as the internet at the time.
Yes.
Because
go 1440.
Yeah, 1440K modems, and you had to know what server you needed to connect to. They didn't figure this out, in 1993 they had the World Wide Web by that point, so they had DNS servers. So you didn't need to know what server you were going to.
Yes.
You just typed in a web address. So they'd figured that out by 1993, but 1990, yeah, you still had to know what domain you wanted to connect to.
What was some of the search engines you had? Magellan? Alta Vista? Was it Alta Vista? Yeah.
The Alta Vista, Yahoo. It was Yahoo on the scene by that point.
About 95, I thought Yahoo.
Yeah, Yahoo sort of kicked off. But yeah, no, GeoCities was... I know GeoCities was pretty active in the late 90s. So,
yeah, all right. Now, the wonderful Ford Pinto.
Yes, and we would have briefly mentioned the Ford Edsel in this as well. But the Ford Pinto is the main one because it was ultimately a successful product, but not after several people died in horrible fiery crashes and Ford got sued out the door.
Well, what's wrong with the odd fiery crash? They like to do that with the F-Series trucks. They like to stick the petrol tank on the outside of the chassis rail. So if they get hit in the side, they turn into a fireball.
Yeah, they like doing that, but also they liked they were trying to have as much boot space as possible in a small car. But, I mean, it was very economical and the performance to economy was great. Was better than their competitors, Chevrolet and Chrysler were coming out with at the time. But the problem is, to give you so much boot space, they decided to put the fuel tank right at the back bumper bar. And so if you so much as breathed on it, it would go bang.
Okay. That sounds like fun.
There were several cases in the mid-70s. They had to pay up families who people died in fires, and so they eventually fixed it by then, and it went on until the early 80s.
In 1981, it finally ceased production.
Yeah, so it was in production for 10 years, but yeah, they not without being sued. And the Ford Edsel was made in 1957. They wanted to capture the large car market, but it was more expensive than everything else, heavier on fuel than everything else, and it had a really stupid name.
Yeah, and it wasn't that attractive. I mean, the side on what do you call that? Side view or something.
The side view?
No, the silhouette. The silhouette wasn't bad, but front on the design work in the front was not good.
No.
Okay, Sony Betamax. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Sony Betamax for the win.
Sony Betamax for the win, except the year later they decided that that VHS was better. Everyone decided that VHS was better. The problem was, the biggest problem was Betamax was a better format. The problem was it took more space on a tape.
Yeah, well, all the professionals used Betamax.
All the professionals used Betamax.
And all the John citizens used VHS.
The problem with VHS was when it came out, you could have 2-hour cassettes straight off the cuff, whereas Betamax is only 1 hour. And this meant that all the movie studios went, well, Betamax is useless to us. And the VCRs were cheaper than Betamax machines. They weren't as well built, but they were cheaper. They were much better for the average consumer. And again, VHS could hold a movie.
Yeah, well, yeah, I can remember my dad coming home in the 70s with the new VCR, and they were monstrous boxes.
Oh, they were huge. By the 90s, the ones I remember were only about yay wide by about yay tall. I remember our VCR not mowing, moaning at you if you ejected and put in the tape and injected it. But yeah, we had
mowing
VCRs. English is hard. English is very hard.
Okay, now HD DVD.
DVD.
It sort of went yes, no.
Yeah, in the early 2000s. Well, essentially, by the time 720 and 1080p displays came around in the early 2000s, because DVD can only carry 480p, which is standard definition, and people were starting to release movies in high definition, and basically, just what happened was that Blu-ray won out because not only did the studios that were supporting Blu-ray do a better job of promoting it, particularly when you have Blu-ray. Disney was on Blu-ray's side, and Disney are very good at promotion. And Warner Brothers eventually switched sides. They were on Team HD DVD, but switched sides. And Warner Brothers are very good at promoting themselves as well. And ultimately, what killed the HD DVD was, even though it was cost Sony a lot to do this, eventually Sony, because Blu-ray was a Sony standard and HD DVD was Toshiba, Sony decided to put them in the PlayStation 3s. So essentially, that was the final nail in the coffin. Essentially, for HD DVD, no one wanted it, no one had the use for it.
It vanished.
Yeah, and it got to the point where Warner Brothers would exchange your HD DVDs for Blu-rays of all the titles that you had.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I'm assuming in America.
Probably in the US, yeah.
Well, okay. What about Crystal Pepsi?
Yeah, here's the thing: if someone came to, if you're the executive of PepsiCo, and someone came to you and said, "Got this brilliant idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make something that's slightly less appetizing and slightly more expensive than our standard products, than our Pepsi and Pepsi Max range." What would you say to that person?
Your F star K D D in the head.
Yes. yes. He's trying to save me work now. I have to censor it. Yeah. So in 1991, they decided this would be a really good idea. Everybody else thought they were a bit naff, but they thought it was a good idea, and it lasted a whole 18 months.
Well, how much Pepsi Next do you see now?
None, because stevia tastes like rubbish.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
I'm a diabetic, so I try regularly. If there's a new sweetener coming out, I'd give it a whirl. But blah.
Yeah, and so apparently you can still buy on eBay. People are selling the original Pepsi. Crystal Pepsi. I probably wouldn't drink it.
No,
it's probably syrup at this point. So I wouldn't do it. But yeah, so they actually tried again in 2003. They tried re-releasing it because there was a couple of people that really liked it.
What? Both of them?
Both of them. Yeah. They tried actually releasing it again in the early 2000s, and again, no one bought it. And they went, "Oh, well, we tried it the first time around. We tried it the second time. It's still not working. We'll put that idea to bed, shall we?"
Yeah. Okay. IBM PC Jr.
Yeah.
Well, let's make something. Let's follow the Steve Jobs line of making something smaller, more expensive, and less useful.
Yeah, because that's why Steve Jobs got kicked out of Apple. And then basically begged it back. Yes, IBM had basically cornered the business market because Atari and Commodore were not really interested in that market. They weren't, as Apple and IBM were. Apple did have some home market use, but they were big on educational institutions and so forth. IBM was in the business market primarily. And IBM went, "Oh, well, we're not really getting anyone in the home. So what we'll do is we'll make a PC that's an underpowered version of what the business customers have, right? Okay, try and compete with Commodore and Atari. We'll make it so it's too underpowered to run common business applications, so businesses couldn't use this as like a secretary, for their secretaries to use or whatever, right? and will make it more expensive than the Commodore 64 or the Atari 8-bits.
Well, there's logic there as straight off.
Yeah, and
because
we'll
you
make
buy the more expensive underperformer rather than the proven product.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah,
No. The fact that you could go to basically Kmart and buy a Commodore 64.
Yep.
Because they came out in 82, this came out in 84. And the monitor had a proprietary connection. You could plug a RCA jack in the back for video, but the monitor had a proprietary connection. So, and the monitor was another several $100s on top of the computer, which was another several $100s.
Yeah.
And they also, but it had a cartridge system like everyone else, and no one bought any games for it. No games licenses, no gaming, no software development houses license any software with it, and so it basically died as soon as it came to market.
Excellent. Okay, who got born on this day?
Well, who got born on this day? The guy that figured out that we have a circulatory system.
If you cut it, it comes out here.
Yeah, the guy that figured out that how the whole blood thing happens.
Yeah, blood circulation.
Yeah, William Harvey. He was born on this day in 1578.
Okay, now in 1815, a young chap named Otto von Bismarck. He went on to become German Chancellor of the unified Germany, so Prussia and Bavaria and all those, Saxony all got together and went, we'll be a country.
Yeah.
So Otto von Bismarck was born on this day in 1815, and pretty much he was the guy that built Prussia, and eventually ended up leading to World War One.
Yes, so his fault.
His fault. Yeah.
His fault.
Yeah.
In 1920, Toshiro, hang on, Japanese. English is hard. Japanese is harder. Bear with me. Toshiro Mifune. I believe I pronounced that. Apologies to our Japanese viewers. Actor and writer.
Yeah, probably the most successful Japanese actor worldwide of the 20th century, starring in such movies as Seven Samurai, Shogun. Of course, people outside Japan would know Seven Samurai not only as Seven Samurai, but also as the American movie The Magnificent Seven.
Yeah, so it was based on that. He put basically Japanese popular culture on the map. So, if you've watched an anime recently, blame him.
Okay. Cool. Now, in 1939, a lady named Ally McGraw was born in Pound Ridge, New York. Probably best known for her role in Love Story alongside Ryan O'Neal, and as the wife of Steve McQueen. Probably her two most notable things. Yes, she was born on this day in 1939.
And in 1995, these young YouTubers, they make me feel old. They really do make me feel old. In 1995, I remember that year, goodness me. Logan Paul.
They make you feel old.
Yes.
What does
I'm
that
halfway
make
to 64 as of Friday.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm not halfway to 64.
No.
I'm just
halfway
about
to 120.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Yes.
So Logan Paul probably got himself a little bit of trouble recently, but yeah, he was born on this day in 1995.
All right, that's us for another show. Sorry it was late. It was meant to be a week ago, but things have been happening, and
yeah,
it's how we roll.
So this ended up being
badly and unorganisedly.
Yes, and so this ended up being our Easter special.
Yes. I'm very special.
We know.
All right. We'll see you in the dark side. Subscribe. We love
down
subscribers.
There somewhere.
Yeah, we love subscribers down there.
And hit the bell so your phone goes bing.
Yep. Well, we are also looking for a a social media person to help us. So if you've got proclivities in that direction,
Yeah.
we'd love to hear from you. We can pay you heaps of love.
Yeah.
That's it.
So it will be on a
spare no expense on this show.
because there's no expense to be spared. Anyway, well, that's us for another week. If you like us, hit like. If you don't like us, inflict us on all your Facebook friends.
Yes. And the cookies were lovely.
Yeah. See you on the dark side.
Bye.